Okay, so we're going to talk about trying to load, install Postgres, which is a free software free database that is actually pretty powerful, and it approximates more of the enterprise databases that you're going to be probably working with in the real world, as opposed to Access, which is just a single user database. But it's a little more complicated, a little more difficult to install and deal with, so we work with Access for the basics. Anyway, we're going to need this because we're going to have an exercise later where we work with multiple users, multiple authorizations, and because Access is a single user database, we're going to use this as the database to perform those actions. Alright, so if you go down here, there's this online install Postgres / PostGIS. PostGIS will be an extension that goes into the Postgres, and I'm going to call it Postgres. Some people give it its full name, which is Postgre SQL. I don't know, I just hear people say Postgres, so be aware that that's not its real name. Here's a link here that goes to this enterprisedb.com, which has a lot of installs. We're going to start with 9.618, which is the one that ArcMap 10.7 is certified to work with. I know there's more recent ones, but we're going to go with this one. We're not actually going to integrate this with ArcGIS in this class, but we will in the later classes. Alright, over here 9.618, because I'm working with Windows 10, hopefully you are as well. I need the 64-bit version. If you're working with an earlier version, then maybe you need the 32-bit, or if you're Mac or Linux, then you'll want to get the corresponding one as well. Go ahead and just download this thing, and I'll pause it while we're waiting for the download. As you can see, we're downloading this thing here. I actually had to click on the Start the Download Now button and make sure that I put this in the correct location, which there is no real correct location for this. I just put it in the Downloads directory. Anyway, I'll go ahead and pause this and I'll see you in a second. It has finished downloading. Go ahead and just click on it, see if we can get this to run. Otherwise, you can open the folder and do it from there. I'm going to say yes to allow the app to make changes to my device. And of course, it's going to show up on the other screen that I'm not recording on. Oops, don't want that. Okay, hold on one second here. Sorry, everything was switched over to my other screen here. So if you don't have this redistributable Visual C++ already on your machine, then it will need to install it as well. So it may be that you already have that on your computer, in which case you won't get this screen. But if you don't, then just let this run and install these binaries, these libraries that it needs in order to be able to run the process. Postgres runs as a service, so it'll be running in the background, and I'll show you how to look at that using the task manager just to make sure it's up and running. Okay. Eventually you get to this setup wizard. Go ahead and click next on it. It's going to ask you where you want to install the software. It's also going to ask you where you install the data. As far as I'm concerned, just take the defaults. This would be where you store the data directory. Again, just the default. It's going to ask you for a password. You know, if you're in a real situation, you'll probably want to come up with a real one, but I'm just going to make this Postgres, just all lowercase, because it's easier for me to remember. I suspect that you'll probably wind up just deleting this software when this class is over, so I wouldn't get too fancy. Just make it something simple like that. The port 5432 is default standard for Postgres. Just accept that, leave it alone. You'll find that if you are in some place that's really heavily locked down, like the college And I also found this when I created a virtual computer, that this port is blocked by default. So if you're trying to communicate to this remotely, you have to make sure that that port is open. Tell it you want the default locale. It's now ready to begin installing. Go ahead and click next and let it go. It's going to put a whole bunch of stuff on your machine. And then we'll get to the next part. I'm going to go ahead and just pause this so we don't have to sit together. Shouldn't take very long. And we're back. All of that has finished. Go ahead and click on finish, and we're going to move on to the next stage where Stack Builder will help us and install some additional extension type stuff. Be sure and go ahead and choose your Postgres SQL 9.6 on port 5432, and then we'll go ahead and click next there. All right, want to make sure that we come down and we get PostGIS. There are a number of versions that you can get. I think we're going to go with 2.5 because that's the one that's certified for use with ArcGIS 10.7. Go ahead and click next. Tell it this is where you want it, unless you have a better idea. Okay, and then we have to click next to actually do the install. Agree. And go ahead and tell it to create the spatial database. We're not really going to use it as much in here, but it's nice to just see what it looks like. Tell it that's where you want it. Put in that information. Going to ask you for the name of the spatial database. If you said yes, I'm just going to call it PostGIS 25 Spatial. And install. And there we go. Oops. Let's go ahead and just say yes to the environment variables and raster drivers and things like that. And we're now complete. You can show the details if you like. Maybe you actually want to copy this for some reason. I'm just going to click close and finish. And at that point we should be done. Come back to the next video and we'll show you what to do about confirming that it's there and everything.